best.
Officials in the Los Angeles suburb of Arcadia have taken custody of a 13-year-old girl whom they say was kept in such isolation by her parents that she never even learned to talk. Her elderly parents have been charged with child abuse.
Hey guys, it's Lavender here. Welcome back to my channel. It's Lavender here, and today I want to talk about a very graphic, sad true crime case, in a sense that it was more of like an abusive, like a severely abusive situation, not like a murder case. So yeah, I want to talk about the true crime case of Jeannie the Wild Child. Jeannie was a victim of, the rundown is that Jeannie was a victim of severe abuse, neglect, and social isolation, and a case that made history. This case was recorded in psychologically and sociology around the world. So here's a backstory about Jeannie. Jeannie was born in 1957. Jeannie was the last child and second surviving of four children born to parents living in Arcadia, California. Her father worked in a factory as a flight mechanic during World War II and continued in aviation afterwards. And her mother, who was around 20 years younger than him and from an Oklahoma farming family, had come to Southern California as a teenager fleeing the Dust Bowl era. During her childhood, Jeannie's mother sustained a severe head injury in an accident, giving her neurological brain problems and eye damage that caused permanent vision problems in one eye to the point where she could not see at all and was basically blind. Jeannie's father was originally named Pearl, a name his mother gave him, a feminine name, and which made him the target of constant bullying by school kids and later in life. As a result, he harbored extreme resentment towards his mother during his childhood. When Jeannie's father became an adult, he changed his first name to a more masculine, macho name. Soon after they married, he prevented his wife from leaving the home and beat her with the brain damage and the onset of severe cataracts. It left her increasingly dependent on her abusive husband. Jeannie's father disliked children and wanted nothing to do with them, but around 5 years into their marriage, his wife became pregnant. He beat his pregnant wife, but she still had the babies. Her father found her cries annoying, and he hated loud noises of any kind and decided to place her in the garage, where she caught pneumonia and died. Their second child, born approximately a year later, was a boy diagnosed with Rh incompatibility who died at 2 days of age. 3 years after that, 3 years later, they had another son, who doctors described as healthy. Jeannie was born 5 years after her brother, around the time that her father began to isolate the whole entire family from others and other people. She was described as a healthy baby girl, but later on she would have to have a splint put in her hip because she was having hip problems. The splint caused Jeannie to be late to walk, and this is believed is what caused her father to start speculating that she was not mentally all there. As a result, he made no effort to try to talk to her or interact with her or pay attention to her of any kind, and discouraged the whole family from doing so as well. When Jeannie was 20 months old, her parental grandmother died in a hit-and-run traffic accident. Her death greatly affected Jeannie's father, and because his son had been walking with her, he held his son responsible for his mother's death. Also, when she was approximately 20 months old, her father began keeping her in a locked room. During this period, he always almost strapped her to a child's toilet or bound her in a crib with her arms and legs immobilized in a straitjacket-like device. If Jeannie vocalized or made any type of noise, her father beat her with a large plank. He also barked like a rabid dog at her all the time. He forbid all of the family from interacting with her, provided her with almost no human interaction or stimulation of any kind, and left her severely malnourished. Her father refused to give her solid food, feeding her only baby food and cereal most of the time. And not like hard foods, but just like soft foods. So yeah. Jeannie was extremely pale and grossly malnourished, standing only 4 feet 6 inches tall and weighing only 59 pounds. And her stomach was sticking out and extended because her malnutrition. The extent of her isolation prevented her from being exposed to any significant amount of speech, and she did not acquire language during her childhood as a result. On rare occasions, her father allowed Jeannie to play with plastic food containers, old spools of thread, and things like that. On really, really rare occasions. Jeannie's father had an extremely low tolerance for noise, to the point of refusing to have a working TV or radio in the house. He hardly ever allowed his wife or son or any of the family to talk, and if they did, he would beat them. Her abuse came to the attention of a Los Angeles child welfare authorities in November 1970 when she was 13 years old and 7 months. When her mom, who had bad cataracts, went into the wrong room at the office, and the social worker who was there noticed, who greeted them, instantly sensed there was something wrong with Jeannie. At first she thought that Jeannie may have been like autistic and a young child, but she was shocked to learn the true age. Jeannie's parents were arrested for child abuse in November 20th. The morning before a scheduled court appearance on child abuse charges, Jeannie's father, committed suicide by gunshot. And he left a suicide note saying the world will never understand. And Jeannie's motor skills were extremely poor. She could neither stand up straight nor fully straighten any of her limbs, and had very little endurance. Her body movements are poor and unsteady, and they described her walking as like a bunny, like bunny walk. After this fact, throughout the time scientists studied Jeannie, she had made substantial advances in her overall mental and psychological development and well-being. Within months, she developed nonverbal communication skills and gradually learned some basic social skills. But by the end of the case study, she still exhibited many behavioral traits of an unsocialized feral person, but ultimately remained unable to fully acquire a first language and not be able to speak any type of language. Her living arrangements became the subject of notorious debate and scandal. In June 1971, she left the hospital to live with her teacher from the hospital, but a month later, she was rehomed and placed in a family of the scientist that was heading the research team. She lived there for 4 years. Soon after turning 18, Jeannie returned to live with her mother, but her mother couldn't handle her and could not adequately care for her because of her cataracts and her old age. Authorities then moved her into the first of what would become a series of institutions for disabled adults. As a result, her physical and mental health severely deteriorated, and her newly acquired language and behavioral skills very rapidly regressed. In January 1978, Jeannie's mother forbid all scientific observations and testing on Jeannie. Little is known about what happened to Jeannie after all this and after the fact. However, she is believed to be living in the care of the state in California, like where disabled adults go to.
It was a family that once was, that fell apart. After time's gone by and I put a family together, and I don't have the hurt that I used to have. And I'm happy for my sister for getting all the attention she's gotten and all the help, professional help. They weren't very educated people, they weren't outspoken, they didn't mingle with people. It's just, and I have a little resentment for that. The fear of my upbringing not being what I expected it to be. I mean, at that point in time, I didn't know what to expect. Okay, but later in life, I would have expected a lot more from my parents than what they gave me. They didn't give me the tools of knowledge to get out and feel comfortable about accomplishment and setting goals. And they didn't teach me about the Bible and its teachings and God. I didn't really know there was a God. I feel like at times that God's failed me, and maybe He has, and maybe He hasn't. I'm alive. I've enjoyed a lot of things. God's given me that. God hasn't really failed me. I might have failed Him, since I've let all this time go by. But it's never too late.
And yeah, if you guys like this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I actually learned about this case when I was in college. I had no idea this is an actual thing, honestly, and I'm glad I know about it now, because it's horrible what happened to her. So, bye guys, see you next video.